Blessings and welcome everyone to Adventures in ecoRelations. Tonight we have a special treat. We have Joan Bowler here from Australia, and she's going to be sharing with us about her 30-year relationship with the river red gum tree of Australia. Our flow for tonight is I'm going to open with a sounding for us. These trees, as I've come to know them simply through some research and a little bit that Joan has shared with me, are truly giants in the tree world. And we'll share some images with you later of some of these elders who are still alive and growing in Australia. And what we're going to do tonight is hear a presentation from Joan about her life path with the river red gum tree. And then following that, we're going to do something which is really a first for me, and that is we're going to open a listening field with the river red gum tree. And we are going to be inviting the spirit of the tree that sits in the botanical gardens. Joan will share more about that in her presentation. And we're going to be asking if these ancient elders have something that they would like to share with us today. So for those of you, many of you are here on the call, you've been involved in a listening field before. It's simply a meditative and ceremonial experience in which we invite the spirit and the consciousness of our nature elders, in this case a tree elder, into our group field. And then we converse with them heart to heart, asking a group question. So in honor of these giants, these really resilient giants, I think that's what has struck me the most in the little that I know of these tree elders. And that is that they are very, very resilient to fire, to floods, to droughts, to all kinds of inundations. And so I think that there's a reason beyond what even Joan's beautiful story, that we are being called to know this tree elder a little more deeply, because we are at a time ourselves where we are learning how to be more and more resilient with all the various changes that are happening on Mother Earth. So I'd like to begin with a sounding or a weaving. And I'm going to invite us to just, each of us, close our eyes and withdraw our attention from the screen while we do this, and just really center our awareness in our heart. Beloved Mother, Father, God, Creator, Great Spirit, we give thanks for this sacred time together. We give thanks to the great foundations of life, the beloved water and earth, air and fire, and the great mysterious ether. As we come together tonight to honor the tree elders, some of whom lived long ago, saw much historically that is passed long before we arrived here. And through the grace and the dedication of different human beings, aspects, embodied aspects of these tree elders, their wisdom has become part of our modern culture today. So with this opening, we honor and give gratitude to the ancestors, both the nature ancestors and the human ancestors who have gone before us and laid the pathway for where we arrive now, stepping into full co-creative partnership with our nature elders, both ancestors and currently with us, to understand how we can truly value and honor each other and the gifts that we each bring to a thriving world for all of life. So thank you everyone for coming to be with us tonight as we begin this journey to learn a little bit more and come a little bit closer heart to heart with the river red gum tree of Australia. So I welcome Joan to the screen.
Thank you, Donna Leah.
You're very welcome. It's such an honor to have you here. Stories and life pathways with our nature elders, I believe, is something that we need to keep bringing into the forefront. So thank you for all the time and the remembering that has happened for you and for your children in helping to prepare this presentation for us tonight.
Thank you, Donna Leah. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor as well. Thank you.
Beautiful. So why don't we begin? And I might ask you a question or two as we go along. And yes, we're all ears and eyes. Thank you, Martin, for taking care of this.
Are you going to put the slide up, are you?
No? Yes.
Okay. Well, this is the Murray River in New South Wales, on the border of New South Wales and Victoria in Australia. And this is where I was born, on the banks. I wasn't born on the banks of the river, but that's where we lived. And so this is a river I'm very familiar with as a little kid. And it was, and of course, the river was such part of local activities for the country people and the townspeople. And so swimming and fishing and also transport, food, all sorts of things have been derived from this magnificent river for human survival. So I lived there with my family, mum and dad, 2 sisters, and we had absolutely amazing times together down at the river. My mother was very strict. She's one of 13 children, and she was pretty strict with us. But when we came to play, she was very, very playful and very happy for us to be sort of enjoying our time at the riverbank, of which we spent a great deal, because the weather in that part of Australia can be extremely hot. So fishing was very much a part of what we did. And of course, above the gum trees would keep us shade. And of course, there'd be magpies and all the wonderful birds of Australia, cockatoos and I was going to say koalas. Koalas weren't in this part so much, but the bird life and the sea life was abounding, and we little kids just kind of were part of all that. And one of the wonderful things I remember clearly was very hot days, and we didn't have air conditioners in those days. So we'd go down to the beach and we'd put our little feet into the muddy sand, and it was really just so dark and rich. it was just so kind of beautiful and healing.
Thank you. Next slide, please,
So
Martin.
my mother, in some senses, Dundee, was sort of representative. You know, she was a strong, determined, wonderful woman, but who gave me a great deal of her gifts. I've been grateful for the environment.
Okay, we're just gonna.
I remember when we were fishing, you know, in those days we had just little pieces of string and a hook and a few worms. And my dear mother kept rethreading the worms. You know, she was so patient. We never caught much, but it was a lot of fun.
Beautiful. How you doing, Martin?
So again, this is just a part of the river which we were so familiar with. Mind you, it had its own moods. People drowned very easily. There were droughts and floods, so it wasn't all as peaceful as that. But that's what, you know, that was our experience. Not that I experienced all those at one go, but that is the nature of the river.
Beautiful. Next.
Spelling mistake there, people, don't worry about it.
Martin, is there an issue advancing the slide?
I think the point is that we, you know, we did develop as little kids the beauty around us. You know, you just absorb these things through your skin. And you know, there were my two sisters and me, and we had a horse. Well, we didn't have a horse, but a relative did. So horses and dogs and kids and backyards were very much part of our world. We were very lucky. And my parents were very active community people. So, you know, they were in all sorts of activities that included, you know, doing good for the community.
Beautiful. Next.
And as you can't, you know, you can take the child out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the child. So Antine and I, this is Antine. Well, it wasn't 78 years, it was actually 73. I was a bit carried away there. But I met Antine when I came down to boarding school and I was a little kid. And she always claimed that she was the naughty one. Of course she was. And I was the goody two-shoes, she claimed. In fact, in looking back, she was a visionary. Excuse me. She's an eccentric, funny, generous, and willful. Pardon me. I'm, as you can read there, I'm a model, some common sense, humor, talent, and steady as you go, although willing to explore new ventures, as I had many varied experiences up to that point in my life when we got to discover the wood. But we had spent many years together at school, and then we both went on to nursing, and we both did general nursing and obstetrics and midwifery. Subsequently married our various husbands, or two husbands, had lots of children, 10 children between us. And in those days, we used to still connect and go camping with other like-minded friends for years and years and years to national parks. And this is a wonderful development for our children, as well as ourselves, about understanding nature. It was just such a sort of organic, marvelous experience. I mean, we coped with violent storms, blew tents away, and all that sort of that goes with the story. They were just significantly important years for our children and us.
Beautiful. Next.
When we, is the next slide coming?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm recovering from bronchitis, people. I'm really sorry. My voice is bad.
It's good. It's all good, Joan. And it seems to think we're having trouble advancing the slides.
Okay.
Is it possible to just select it on the left-hand side, Martin? Huh.
Anyway, when we got married, Jim and I, we moved very quickly to Canberra for many years, and the children went to school there. But Anthony and I always kept in touch. Again, we still travelled down to do camping in national parks, even though we're separated physically or geographically. In 1984, Jim was at ANU, National University, and in 1984 we came back to Melbourne, and Jim became the director of the Natural Science Department and the professorial fellow at Melbourne University. Anyway, whilst he was in that role, someone had sent a piece of timber to him. And this was sent because some of the conservatory people had got wind of that there had been a quarry developed over an ancient river, Red Gum bed, and someone found this timber, this wood. So the Jim, this is the actual piece of wood, which I believe actually it's not. It's a piece of wood that got turned to indicate that this wood was possible to work with. But so Jim got it carbon dated and it came back about 6,000 years, this particular timber. And if you look at the photo, you see the little sample is taken on a red table top. Now that is the colour of the red gum trees. Magnificent, beautiful pattern timber, just wonderful stuff. But anyway, so the story of that particular example represented over 18,000 years ago. We were in the grip of the Ice Age here in Australia. And about 10,000 years ago, then that started to change. And the trees started to grow along the banks of the Murray River again and meander across the floodplains. But because of the instability of the landforms, the trees fell into the river. And they were buried there and have remained there until the quarry was opened. The quarry was opened because it was government land, and the quarry people, or the CSR, big international company, building product company, had got license from the government to quarry that area for gravel. So that was seen as, okay, and that all seemed to be what happened. And as a result, they came, as I started quarrying, they came across these massive lumps of trees that had been there all that time, from 10,000 years till present. And they were in the way. I mean, getting a lump of black timber into your concrete mix wasn't very nice, I don't think. Certainly didn't make them happy. So anyway, because the example was given to Jim, the museum director at the time was alerted, obviously, and it was decided that we've got to do something about these. These have been carbon dated to 6,000 years, and they were bringing in the remains of the trees, this is the quarry people, to the surface and burning them. They had to get rid of them. They didn't know what they were. But anyway, eventually it was discovered that they were very significant. So there was a contract then, and then of course at that point the museum director didn't want to get into business with small enterprises. They were doing what they should be doing. So the word spread around who would like to take this on. And there were very few takers, except people like Anton and I, who were kind of always into nature and history, but me too, because of Jim's history and so much involved with manga. So because Jim is a scientist, anyway, the long and the short of that, we decided to form a little company, the three of us, and put that to the museum and to the CSR people, and that was drawn up as a legal contract. And so the museum said, well, we will give the certificates of authentication to say what it is, and we will do the carbon dating, because carbon dating is extremely expensive process. And the trees all came up at different times, or fell in at different times. So often they were at different ages and some different species. So it was very complicated. However, we ploughed on and formed a little company. We got a shelf company, and then we called the shelf company the Rain Serpent. We were a proper proprietary limited company, and and there we were with the museum, the CSR people at the quarry, and us. And we clearly didn't know what we were on about, but somehow we had the courage to keep going. And so which it came to pass, and this is it in the quarry, on the quarry floor, and this is what they were dealing with. This is what we were dealing with. And as time went by, we had to find a miller. This stuff's jolly heavy. And initially, it was the red colour that I showed you before as a sample of the table, that beautiful red textured timber. And over the years, the thousands of years that the timber had been in, the trees had been in situ in the gravel. The gravel and the water through chemical interaction had changed the timber into a black, beautiful black colour, mostly black. And so it was a little bit like ebony. And so that was also one amazing striking feature. We found a local miller because we were living here some nearly 350 kilometres from the quarry to where we live in Melbourne. And so there's so much travelling backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And anyway, we got going, and this is what we were dealing with, this stuff. And only 10% of it, once the quarry people brought it up to the surface, was any good. Then it had to be cut and milled and kiln dry, because it was also wet and tatty. When I think back, I'm surprised how we did it. So Anthony and I, then Jim was very busy doing what he was doing, obviously, although he was initially with Ben. He and Ben went up to the quarry and got with a chainsaw and brought lumps of the timber back to actually not here, not in Melbourne, but by this time we'd bought a cottage. We'd stopped our camping. It was all getting a bit too hard work. So Antoine's family and my family bought a little cottage in the country. And so there's a big shed there, and which this timber went into. So there was so much travel and so much activity. We visited the quarry twice a year, and the quarry people were just so amazingly wonderful to us. You know, we had to go through the whole procedure of a great big organisation, of a dangerous site, you know, tin hats and jackets, and signing in and being very protected as we were driven around the site twice a year to look at what was available, but that was being brought up. And Kelvin, the miller, an extraordinary man, amazing countryman, a farmer, had a big farm, loved timber, had a little mill. He also had to buy a bigger mill and a big kiln drying machine to dry the timber. So it was quite a process, but somehow we met just all these extraordinary people along the way that kept us going. These people in front of us now is Vic Wood here with the white shirt on and bending over. He's turning a timber bowl. You know, he really should have had a mask on. The stuff is dangerous, but this is way back, you know, 30 years ago. He learned eventually to tog up to make sure he was safe, because it's so dirty to work. But Vic has made magnificent bowls, turned beautiful bowls. And the guy on the chair, I can't remember his name, sadly, but he made that chair. And he made it because, as you see, the sides of the chair have got these shapes in them. And that was just to demonstrate the way the water went. This is the side of the tree, or the bark, you might say, how the water slashed through the gravel, creating these magnificent shapes in the bark of the tree. So that chair sits here today, and no doubt it'll go off to the gallery somewhere at some point. But the craftspeople were had to be very specially involved. Well, let me say, they had to be committed because it was such a big job. Very dirty. and of course, very few people want to work with it. Also, with respect to them, we had to pay them very dearly for what they made. We went to galleries. Once we got established, we went to galleries, which is that one in front of us there. Anthony and I visited galleries. We also had exhibitions. So the timber there, the bottom part is obviously ancient red gum. The top part is modern red gum here on the bowl here, which is, yeah, there, yes, yes. So that's all timber. So we had many exhibitions throughout Australia. All, mind you, at the beginning, I didn't mention that we asked for financial help, but no one was forthcoming. So Ante and Jim and I actually put a loan into the company. And of course, we kept topping it up. We actually never got our money back, but we got all the experiences and achieved what we hopefully had set out to do, was to save the trees and to save the history. And so I think, you know, the money was one thing, but the activity and the achievement was much better and much more important. The tree here, I'm going to come back to that, Donnelly. So these are some of the products. That's the chair we talked about. This is the stuff that was in galleries. We were in galleries in all the states throughout Australia. And again, it was just a wonderful, but jolly hard work to keep. And of course, with a product like this, if you're dealing with a high end, if you go back to that one, Donnelly, yes, that one, they were the certificates of authentication. We need to go to the next one, yeah, that one. That the museum printed for us or made for us, and we gave that to with every product the craftspeople made. Our swing tickets, our business tickets, our packaging was first class. And again, there's the backdrop is that ancient, is the present day red gum table. But that's the backbone of the tree, not the one that of all ancient, all red gum trees in Australia. So if we can go back to the what number, it doesn't matter. So if we can go back to that one we saw with Antony and I with helmets on a bit further. So when we came, could we go back to slide where it was back on the quarry? Is that possible?
Yep.
Where the tree was on the quarry floor, the big one, standing up.
This one?
Yes, yes, yes. So this tree, one time we went to the quarry, and most times it was sort of a little bit heartbreaking because, you know, there's all so many piles of wood we had to deal with. This time we went, and here was this 15-foot tree standing up, very big hollow up the centre. Just, and I think the craftspeople, or rather the quarry people, knew we were coming, and so they stood it up. And I said, "Do you want this tree?" And we said, "Yes, we do. We do. We want that tree. We must do something with it." So the long and the short of it is, at that point, we had already had gifts in the botanical gardens here in Australia, in Melbourne. And they were familiar with the ancient timber and the gifts. They loved the timber, the gifts. So we spoke to the CEO of the botanical gardens here in Melbourne and said, "Look, we have this wonderful, wonderful specimen of a tree. Would you like it?" Because they were developing the new children's garden at the botanical gardens here in Melbourne. And it just so happened when they were planning, this tree happened to appear magically. So with great effort and cost, this beautiful piece of tree, because it would have been obviously much, much taller than that, was taken to Melbourne on a semi-trailer outfit. So when it arrived in the botanical gardens, where the children's garden was being prepared, we were there to meet it, you know, like a long lost friend. And of course, we had to put the helmets on, and of course, someone wanted to take our photo. So that's us near the tree, being presented to the botanical gardens, to the children's garden. So that was the only tree that we ever saw that could look like that. The rest of it was like that pile there. So, or that pile there. So this now is what is 2 weeks ago, the gardens have been shut because of COVID. Now they're now open. And so I asked, could I have a photo? And that's what they sent me 2 weeks ago. So that is the tree. that represents all those thousands and thousands and thousands of trees that fell into the ancient Murray River. And I think it's just so wonderful. You know, it's all almost in fairyland. It's just beautiful. So the children can see that. They were going to put the tree on a pylon so the kids could go in under and look up through it. But I think over time, its vulnerability was a bit risky. And I think they decided to not do that. But now it sits right there in that beautiful space in the children's garden, in the botanical gardens. And subsequently, you know, we went on for years and years. That was 2012. These are lots of the products were made, and just very awful stuff to work with respect to the timber. But the ones here on the right, or your left or my right, that coloured wood, that is all timber. That's present day timber, mixed with the ancient timber, and also Huon pine from Tasmania. And just beautiful, beautiful work these people did. Just wonderful. Many things were broken. Many things had to be started again, but on we went. And so we tried to use as much timber as we could, because there wasn't much to, work with. So that one bowl in the middle, that was made out of a chunk of timber, and so on. So over the years, we developed big businesses. We had exhibitions, as I said before, but we're also in galleries, in very sophisticated galleries throughout Australia. And they loved the stuff. They loved the timber, I should say. They loved our product because of the way we presented. There you see the log, and you could see faint colours of the original red gum. And over time, because of the burying and this gravel and whatnot, the outsides have become quite black, or most of it has become black. Most of it was had holes right up the centre full of gravel. And of course, the poor old craftspeople hated that because it got into their swords. But somehow we soldiered on. So a lot of this other little bits and pieces that came with with what we did, so we're sending stuff overseas. So there's little things that we attach to the different pieces of timber. Obviously, you can see what they are: the koalas and kangaroos, and the opera house, platypus, and what's that one? Not quite. I'll tell someone. And that one there. That's opera house. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Anyway, so they were attached, and here we looked at, again, people were starting to get very clever and add things to it. So people added beautiful sterling silver leaves, and it went on and on. It was just such an extraordinary story. And there again, you see the different colours in that particular bit of timber. Not all black. It still had streaks of the original red colour. People loved that as well. The trouble was sometimes with bowls, you'd make them and then they'd turn a different shape. So that's why it was so important to dry the timber. These are the galleries. One in Melbourne, Maker's Mark, as you would recognise, it's a photo of the Uluru. So we had Sales of the Desert, a shop there, Melbourne, and of course the Opera House. And so and there are a few others overseas. So, and here's Anthony and I trying to look terribly smart and sophisticated, but that's what we prepared. We carted it, we took it to Sydney, packed it all up, got it up there, and then presented it in its best form. And there's Jenny down below. Jenny, people might know Jenny. Jenny's my eldest daughter. Dear Jenny has put all this photography together, bless her darling heart. And there, Jenny and Yusuf, who's her partner, he also has made products of the timber. And there we were at another wood exhibition. So we gave it our all, and for all the family. There were moments when they could have screamed. I think we were so involved in a way that it was a little bit exhausting. This was done by Yusuf, Jenny's partner, who worked with the timber, and he just did this. And he was just representing the magnificent tree and what the tree ended up kind of doing, as it were. So, but it was just, and here is Ben came in a couple of weeks ago because I was sick, and Liam came with him, his son, and I was putting all this together, and Liam was showing great interest, so I told him the story, and that there is the tree of the seat, and there is Liam, the new generation to perhaps carry the story for the family and to go ahead. But the important thing too, I think, is I think Anton and I and Jim did a fantastic job, really. You know, it was not only just the thrill of getting the timber out, it was the history of it. It's how old it is, how important it is to Australian history, and also from a scientific point of view, and also a cultural point of view. And Anton and I, you know, we never got the money back, as I said before, but, you know, I think what we did was, I think we saved what was a byproduct or waste product and turned it into important, exotic, beautiful icons representing ancient Australia. And they're sitting in everybody's dining room with their certificate, little birds like this sort of thing here, beautiful little things, just gorgeous little marvelous stuff. I'm sure there are times when we hated it, but there are times, mostly we loved it. But it was because we liked working together and we persevered, and because we're so different. We were so different, so different. Did we have arguments? Well, occasionally, I'm sure we would have had to stand up occasionally, but that wasn't important. We got past all that. And so I think, you know, to you, Danalia, it was because you came into, when it was Unity Earth, I've been part of Unity Earth for a long time with Ben, and just meeting all the beautiful people who bring their whole heart and soul into that program. And you especially, when you came and opened your heart in relation to nurturing and honouring the nature elders. I thought, I must write this. I hadn't written it up. And I thought, I have to do this. And so thank you so much for pushing me and making me say yes and stepping up. And I must say thank you to my darling family. They've been just absolutely superb. And in all this is Jim at the background. I don't want to honour him too much. He gets too much of that. But without Jim, it may not have ever happened anyway, because that's where it started. But thank you all for listening to me. And I hope I made sense of what I said.
You did, yes. Everybody, please, you're welcome to come back on screen. And yeah, well, let's take a moment or two. Let's even just breathe and stretch, because it's a big story.
Dudley, I just want to finish though,
Sure.
how it ended, because it had ended. In 2017 was the year of ending. We'd been doing this for 27 years. And in 2017, Antine, her dementia had got to a point, sadly, because I think I covered for her for a fair while, because I didn't really want her to go. But it got to a point where Antine had to go into aged care because her dementia had got to a point where she and family and me were unable to maintain her well-being. 2017, the quarry shut. They'd finished what they did. They turned it back into natural, into its natural state again. 2017, we had to sell a 30-year-old country property because Antine needed the money, and fair and rightly so. And in 2017, I shut the company. Had to shut the company down. Fortunately for me, luckily I felt I had to pass the baton on to somebody, and I found this wonderful. They had bought products from us, and they lived in the Hunter Valley, beautiful part of Australia, and they have a magnificent wood gallery, and they took whatever wood we had over, and they have continued with the same craftspeople, very, very small scale, but I feel I've passed it on, and that I've ended, and we have ended, 27 years in the way we had to end. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. One of the questions that was on my mind the whole time when I was hearing about that you had this story was, what was it that drew you to take on this project? And of course, I asked that question because I hear a call actually from the trees themselves. So I hear a call. And I think you've answered this in the presentation, that you're very interested in history. So history, so to see that these pieces of these trees that were preserved under the gravel, like to bring history up on land and to have it continue in modern day. Would you say that was really what your initial impulse was, is from a historical, to honor history?
Well, I don't look, I thank you for the thought of that being the case, but I think it was just more because I was brought up in the country. Trees were always around us. I've been living with Jim so many years on the Mungo story, so history became part of, you know, your second skin.
Yeah.
And we did all the camping, so I can't predominantly, I'd rightly say it was that history. It was just the whole story, just the whole thing. And here it was just old, and no one was doing anything about it. And what could we do? And we'd saved many things. Anthony and I'd been in many other enterprises before, in the health department, in the health issues. So we
Yes.
were used to working together. And again, both of the nurses were used to saving things. So maybe it was the saving in us that made us do something.
Beautiful,
Let's
beautiful.
save it. Yes.
Beautiful. I want to, we have just 15 minutes left, and I just really still feel this call to open a bit of a listening field with the ancient gum tree. We've got several people here from the listening field. Everyone open to open a field very briefly, and we're going to call in the spirit of the gum tree, especially this one. We're going to invite Joan to actually call in. A few of us will as well. And we're just gonna ask a general question. Before we do this, I wanted to show you what inspired me so much. Let's just see if I've got it right here. Martin, do you have that? I'm looking for the link. I don't know why I'm missing the link for the Victoria. There it is. Yeah. So I'm just going to invite us. So yeah, just breathe in, you know, look at the size of these giants. They're in different parts of Australia. So just sensing and feeling and breathing heart to heart with these elders, getting a sense of their lineage. And these are the relatives of the tree that sits in the botanical gardens.
Beautiful.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Martin. I'm going to invite us all to just close our eyes now. You can just bring us back to the gallery. Thank you. So just closing our eyes, breathing in and feeling into our hearts. Especially you, Joan, really connecting your heart to the heart of the tree that is in the botanical gardens. Ooh. Great standing ones of Mother Earth. We honor each and every one of you where you live and root, linking earth to sky, providing homes and shelter for humans and animals, birds and insects. And we call upon the spirits of the ancient red gum tree, whether it be one of the relatives we have seen in the photos who are living today, or be it the spirits of the ancient red gum tree who is in the botanical gardens. We seek to offer a space in this moment for your voice to be heard by any one of us. And so we invite you to link heart to heart with each and every one of us on this call in the way that we are able to connect with you. And we offer and ask this very simple question. Great standing ones of the red gum tree, do you have a message or something that you would like us to know, hear, or feel from you at this time? We thank you for sharing what you will with each of us. And those of us here, I invite us to write down what we hear or see or feel or know. We'll give this 3 minutes. And then when you're ready, I invite each of us to put in the chat what we may have heard or saw or felt, just trusting what we saw or felt. Beautiful. I'm going to invite a few people if they'd like to just say out loud what they received, or if you have not put it in the chat but received something, raise your digital hand. It's always nice to hear the transmission from your voice. Mm. Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Pam, is that you that went, person who went in the tree?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. Hmm. When you heard, but not, yes, visitors to the gardens pay attention to key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. It was hard to translate that into words, but by our attention in the listening field, by connecting through the heart bond, it's like the spirit of the tree was like, oh, no one has come to, come forward to me in this way. The people and the children play around the tree in the gardens, but it's not at this level of connection, not with the spirit of the tree. And the interaction strengthened the spirit. And then I saw the tree, like an etheric version of the tree going like higher, 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 which could be used in like shamanic journeying to transport one to the upper world. And maybe that's what it had been used for thousands of years ago.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. I agree that as we were listening in those few very short minutes, I was feeling more and more energy of the tree becoming more present. Did anyone else feel that when we were listening, the energy of the tree was increasing or rising? Yeah, Martin as well. Anyone else? Linda DeHart, sister.
I was so impressed with the great differences of expressions of the ones, the generations in our time, how they morphed in probably in response to whatever was going on. I mean, these trees create themselves in ways that are like, as a human, I say it's like unbelievable that it can be all the same tree, the same family of trees, because they're morphing in so many different expressions. And I guess what I would add to what I'm just saying now is that it's like they're modeling for us what we need to do as humans. If they can do it, we can.
Beautiful, beautiful. I certainly noticed there's also some real synergy in some of the messages that we each received as well. This thing about deep and being tall. And I know for myself, it was this like resilience is a choice. And the more I kind of, as we gave attention, hard attention to these relatives, their spirit they came forward. That's what it feels like. They come forward more. And they started to feel lighter and quite flexible. Like not their wood, but their ability to adapt, to change. Yeah. Anything from you, Ben, or or Jamie, or anyone else?
maybe Marianne, who's
Yeah.
actually called Jamie, but
Oh, okay. And I see you there too, Olivia. Yes, Jamie, did you want to? So it's there you
So
are.
sorry, it's hi Danalia.
Hello,
Hi
Maria.
everybody. First of all, well done, Mum, on speaking. You did a great job. A little bit of nurturing along the way from all of us here as a family. But interesting you talked about synergy there, Danalia, for sure. I think what I was a sensory feel of groundedness, deep groundedness and strength. That was pretty much what I was picking up on as a feeling. And I think that resonates with some of the things that you've all shared today. So yeah. And I'm really enjoying hearing everybody's expression of their experience of, as you say, calling in the spirit or calling in the vibration of the tree, and hearing everybody what they had to say. Oops, sorry, I'm still here. Sorry. Because as a family member, I've been around the story obviously for however long, it's 27 years. So to hear, and I think that represents, I guess, the vibrational vibe that I picked up on, the strength, the groundedness, and also the change of the color of the tree, the extraordinary color. That also has its own strength in terms of color and vibration, and hearing this sort of ending of the story as my mother's explained it, but yet there's another beginning in here, which is really beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks for making that connection. I didn't, but you're right. And inviting the voice in has bringing another dimension as well. Olivia.
Yeah.
For me, what's been growing, first of all, Joan, I was so intrigued when I started to hear you talk about this, and when Ben planted the seed. And so I was so thrilled to be able to come tonight. As a girl, I would sing Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gum Tree. So I've always had this real connection and wanting to go to Australia. But what really grew for me as we were sitting here together was the compassion and the love of this tree. And I'm thinking of it particularly with the children in the botanical garden, and the way that the artisans were able to use it for art, which is so sacred and which has been so important through the history, ancient histories of humankind. So I felt compassion and love growing from this huge, and it felt very maternal. It felt very much like a mother tree. So I'm very moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Just looking at the time, we're 2 minutes over. We're going to take, Janice, so you quickly, and Ben, do you want to say something? So if anyone needs to leave, please, don't let us keep you, and thank you very much for coming. And if you can stay a few extra minutes, we'll release our attention with the gum tree and close for the evening. Yeah, Janice.
I just had this sense of the gum tree standing up out of the water and released from its, just released and being reborn again. And I heard the words, "We are so grateful to you, Joan and Aintree, because you gave us another life and you shared our wisdom with others. And you gave us a new life so people can know us and what we represent and why we are here." And that it particularly loved the birds that were made out of the tree, because it reminded tree of the birds that used to live in the tree. And that just if you could put a smile on a gum tree, it was smiling energy. There was a kind of like, you got us, you know who we are. And it said also to me that even when, we die a certain way in our life, like an old form of our life dies, and sometimes people just want to give up, that if you just stay present with your authenticity, which these gum trees did, that you will find your purpose. and they found a new purpose. And that still moves on. You gave up the business, but it's living on through a session such as this. I would give anything to have one of those little birds. Joan and I each share a love of birds. We're bird photographers and lovers and talk birds to each other. So,
Thank you, Janice.
thank you.
Beautiful. Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Danalia. Yeah, well done, Mum and Jenny and Mayor and everyone who's presented. That was a wonderful presentation. I just went to stoke the fire here, and my eye was caught by something on the shelf that I haven't really looked at for a very long time, but I went and picked it up, which is this beautiful blackwood cross, obviously, that's been made from the ancient red gum, and my mind went to Irish heritage here, and I was for the first time probably struck by the depth of time of 8,000 years ago, and then I really, kind of struck me that imagine Mum's ancestors and Antine's ancestors and Jim's and ours. Where were they 8,000 years ago? What were the chances that this story would even happen? That these living trees in southwestern continent that had been discovered by Aboriginal people, but was long, long, long away from being known to Europeans, and then roaming the Germanic plains or up in Scandinavia or wherever they were, their ancestors at the time that these trees were living. The fact that this story happened at all is an unending series of miracles. So it's really quite profound to be here to witness another step on the, flowing in this, river of time that's carrying us all forward. So very profound, very beautiful. Well done. Thank you, Mum. Thank you, Danalia.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's take a few moments, everyone. I just call this, we release our attention with the ancient river red gum tree, either ones that we've connected with and the one in the botanical garden. So we give our thanks and a blessing to close. So just closing your eyes, coming back into your heart link with these great tree elders. Ooh. Thank you, beloveds. Thank you for spanning deep time to current time. Thank you for your adaptability, your willingness to morph and become new. Thank you for the messages of wisdom that you have shared with us, the visions. We will make these messages into a form to bring them forward into our lives, to honor them, to honor you. So we offer you this blessing. May your next and every encounter with humans be filled with deep respect, with love, with heart connection, and of course, with lightness and playfulness. Until we meet again, beloveds, go well. So thank you everyone. Next month we have have you got the slide for us, Martin? It's Thursday, the last Thursday of the month, so it's September 29th. We have Master Lady Kira, who's in Ecuador, and she has a heart bond and a life bond with a grandmother eucalyptus tree. And in this month, in September, we are revisiting the messages from Fire from World Unity Week. And so it was appropriate to bring in Master Lady Kira and Grandmother Eucalyptus Tree, who survived a fire on the hillside in Ecuador on Blue Tossa Mountain. So many more things happening with the listening field and in support of eco-governance, the 7 core needs, and Peace Week, September 17th to the 24th. You can find out more information about what's being offered at www.thelisteningfield.life. Thank you so much, Joan. I really applaud your courage and your stamina. I know you haven't been well the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I just really applaud you and the beautiful family you've created who helped and supported you to bring this story forward. So thank you so much for being our guest and enriching our lives with the ancient red gum tree tonight. Would you like to unmute, Joan?
Thank you. I loved all the replies that people put in the chat and spoke to. It is extraordinary, and I'm so glad that life is extraordinary. I just was one little thank you I forgot, and that was Mary Ann, who's been my buddy throughout this. I kind of left her off. I thought I better quickly say something, but full credit to you, Danalia, for having had this one program, and thank you everybody for please coming along and helping me get through the session. But it was lovely, and I'm so pleased that I actually got through it, which is even better.
You did. Well done. And I want to just let everybody know again that 3 small dots at the chat in the chat, you can click them and you can save chat if you want to save these messages that we've received from the gum tree to take them forward into your life. So thank you.
Danalia, is there any chance of just having that tree in the garden just one more time, or is that too difficult? Doesn't matter.
I
It's gone, has it?
No, but I'm wondering if Martin, have you got the slideshow handy?
If not, I've got it up. You can see it.
Yep, 1 second.
Okay, let's honor. This is the one you have the bond with. Yeah.
It's the mother of all trees
Ah.
with the ones you showed, you see.
Mm, mm.
Yes.
There we go.
There it is, sitting so beautifully. And as people have described what they felt, I think it's just so humbling and just and rich.
Hmm.
And you can almost see the little fairies living in and out of there, and the little children playing around.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, Danalia.
You're
when
welcome.
when you come to Melbourne, people, you can come to the Botanical Gardens and visit this particular beautiful space. It must have been an enormous tree initially. But
Hmm.
there we go. We've still got part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danalia.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.